Welcome to Vinyl Verdict. I'm Bell.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Plouffe.
And this week we're listening to my pick, Will This Make Me Good by Nick Hakim. And that's all in capitals if you're wondering.
Yeah.
And all the song titles
All the
are
song
in
titles,
capitals
all
to yell
capitals.
at you.
Yeah, I can't tell if they're like a word or if they're an abbreviation or what they are. But, you know.
All of the above.
Yeah,
There
sure.
is one abbreviation. Which I guess we'll type. I don't know.
Yeah,
this
we'll
is
get
a
there.
weird intro. Anyways, Nick Hakim, who I'll be calling Hakim because we have a Nick in the room, but we call him Plouffe. So we're going to call Nick Hakim. Well, I'm going to. You can call him whatever. Just don't call him late for dinner. Am I right?
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Anyways, there isn't a ton of info about Hakim online, as he's not extremely popular, so I don't really have too much of an intro. But what I do know is that he's a 32-year-old producer living in Brooklyn.
Hey, he's my age.
He didn't start studying music until he was 17.
Well, I mean, I have that in my intro. It's
Wow,
true.
that's crazy. Go
Because
on.
as a child, Hakim had trouble learning, and at 11 couldn't even tell time or know the order the months came in. So, like, he had a learning disability, or just
That's
the way he was
also-
raised is very challenging. And
It's also just the American education system, unfortunately.
but take that, USA. But everything changed when he was 17 years old, when a friend invited him to sing at church, and it introduced him to the passion of music. In that, well, I guess it would have been like a year. He taught himself piano and ended up getting accepted to Berklee College of Music.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and when he was at school, he released his first EP, Where Will We Go, in 2 parts in 2014. So crazy transformation to go from like can't read
Basically
to
illiterate,
Yeah.
yeah.
being able to make music well enough that he got accepted to college, even though his grades were so poor. He'd been applied to a bunch of schools and been rejected by all of them except for Berklee,
And
which is
Berkeley's pretty still prestigious, right?
Yes.
It's not Juilliard, but like it's like Berkeley's still pretty well known.
It sure
They're
is.
in Boston, aren't they?
I don't know.
They sure are. The EP was pretty popular on SoundCloud and ended up getting like millions of plays, which
Crazy.
catapulted him into the music scene. And then other than that bit of info, the only kind of crazy thing I was able to find out about Hakim is that he worked on Leon Lahavas' self-titled album.
No way.
Yeah. So he helped produce a song, Please Don't Make Me Cry, which is one of the strongest songs on the album. And apparently it happened because she had writer's block. So she went to him because she knows him as one of the best songwriters around, is
That's
what she's
wild.
quoted as saying.
Interesting.
Wild. It's crazy to me. And I guess it kind of makes sense. His production, even on this album, is very, very strong. This is Will This Make Me Good, or WTMMG, as it comes up late in the album, which is his second album. The first one was received really well and ended up on NPR's Best R&B Albums of 2017, and this one was regularly acclaimed. It was just good. People thought it was good.
Yeah, the reviews are sort of middling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, I stumbled across Hakim because he had a music video for Who that was featured in the sketch show Cake. And I was just watching this kind of like comedy, experimental art thing. And this music video came up and I was like, whoa, this rocks. It's different from the song that's on this album. It's like raw, him and a piano.
Okay.
But I really, really liked it. Ended up listening to it a lot while I was enhanced and bought this album. Mom, if you're listening, please skip ahead 10 seconds. While I was on shrooms, I was like listening to this album and I was like, oh man, I gotta own this, and overcame the absolute disaster that it is looking at your phone while enhanced, and ordered it. And I don't regret it. This is a solid album.
Bell's mom listened to that last minute and listened to it a couple times, then send him a text.
Wow, I'm sending this to your mom now, but I'm gonna edit it.
I'm
So this is
enhanced
you did
right
it.
now. No, I'm kidding. I'm not.
Yeah, the album has a lot of dark imagery and references to drugs and mental health and loss, and then the instrumentation and swirling kind of production and balancing of the music with almost ghostly vocalizing really hooks me. It is something else. It is not like anything I've really listened to, but it's not an easy listen.
It's dreamlike in some ways.
A little nightmare-like.
Yeah, I was gonna say more of a nightmare sometimes. I liked it. I'm surprised that you recommend listening to it while enhanced, or that you enjoyed it while on mushrooms, because
spoopy.
it's spooky.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wrote a lot of spooky outros and a lot of negative lyrics, like you said earlier, and
The first song is especially negative.
yeah, and so while listening to it, I enjoyed it. But almost there's a note on almost every track that's like, I don't know if I'd want to listen to this while
This is
enhanced.
not a brag. I feel like I'm in pretty good mental health.
Sure.
And the lyrics are not easy to understand.
That's fair.
So it's mostly the fact that like I'm gonna be laying in bed and I have a pretty decent sound system. So it was like it swirls and moves around the
it
room,
does.
Yeah.
and for that it's very entrancing.
Yes.
But when you read the lyrics or really pay attention, yeah, it's pretty darn dark.
It's not always just
you're saying
the lyrics, though.
saying the lyrics are opaque. You mean like they're hard to figure out what he's talking about, or do you mean like they're hard to hear in the song? Because I agree with you on both of them.
Yes,
Yeah.
both.
It's sometimes just
thank
the
you.
tone, though. Like, sometimes the tone is really eerie and spooky, especially
Yes.
near the end of a lot of tracks.
Yeah, I guess, but I
And
just
then
don't
there's
let
a
myself
couple
get in
like
this mind
normal
space.
songs,
Sure.
and he throws in like one that's just like a song
Yeah.
in there too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. So, there's something that the whole thing kind of reminds me of. I don't know if it's like singing from an Outkast album or maybe Gorillaz. I'm not sure, but I feel like I've heard at least part of the style before somewhere.
Yeah, it's hard to place.
Yeah, I could. Familiar, but
It doesn't feel completely unique to me.
no.
But it's like I can't name.
totally.
It somewhat reminds me of the spacey lyrics and spacey vocals of like a Parliament or a Funkadelic album.
yeah, maybe.
You know, like how they're kind of like out there.
Yeah.
Like very spaced out in the mix too.
Yeah, there are some more positive songs, like talking about being a better person, and then it kind of bounces to the regret and people who've lost their lives or lost freedom. But if you listen to like one or two songs and you don't like it, you're not going to like anything else. And it is a bit of a longer album at 52 minutes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it feels especially long to me because it is quite dynamic, but it is, especially if you don't like it, this is long.
I think there were only a couple tracks where I was like, this is going on a bit. They could have cut 20 seconds from the outro kind of thing. But for the most part, yeah, I was pretty entertained because they are relatively dynamic. It's pretty astute
Yeah, what do you think, Jamie?
observation. Yeah.
I didn't hate this album. This isn't an album that I would gravitate towards. This is one of the rare instances where I agree with the Pitchfork review of the album.
Pitchfork reviewed this?
Yeah, they gave
Wow.
it like
They've done all of his albums.
yeah, they gave
It's like a 6.8 or something.
6.8 or something like that. I agree with that. That's pretty fair. But one of the points they made it is that it is a headphone album. It's one that's best enjoyed on headphones. And I listened to it through my stereo while I was cooking some ribs the other day. Shout out to me.
Should have had me over.
Sorry. It was really good too. But I had them on and I was cooking and I was like trying to pick out the individual instruments because there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And I found the way the album is mixed is not conducive to listening to it through a traditional stereo. It would probably be better if it had like a 5.1 mix.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
then
there's
it was
definitely a lot
very
of
surrounding.
spatial
But-
placement.
But you guys know how my stereo is set up in my apartment.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But it's still just two speakers.
It's
and-
two.
front.
Well, it's four speakers, but it's
Oh,
just it's just two channels.
Oh,
right.
right,
Yeah,
right,
I just double it. But like even with that, I found it very hard to pick out something that was going on. So I listened to it again on my headphones, and I agree with Pitchfork on that one.
I agree. I have listened to this album like while driving the car, and there's a couple songs that I really enjoy, and that's fine. But when I am in my like Dolby spatial speaker setup, it's far better with headphones. It's far better.
Yeah, the
and it
sound
almost
stage.
tries to get your attention quite a bit. So it does want to feel. It wants all of your attention while listening to it. For
Like
better or worse.
early stereo albums, it has a lot of stereo panning to it. Like,
Yeah.
where it's like on one side and then the other side and all that. But I didn't hate the album. I mean, like it is a little long for me. And if you didn't enjoy it in the first half, it wouldn't grab you in the second half. I did agree with some other reviews that it is sort of uneven, and he could have used an editor. And he himself, I think, put out a couple of tweets that said, people I've shown this off to said it's kind of all over the place. And I kind of like it that way. But I think maybe if he had listened to the people that said it was kind of all over the place, it might be, like a little bit more cohesive. But I didn't hate it. And I was kind of interested in talking to it because with you guys about it because I wasn't sure how you guys would rate it. I know Bell probably likes this album because he presented it to us, but
Yeah, it's interesting. It kind of has a similar vibe to me as Slide by George Clanton in the way that there's a very clear theme and similar instruments and tone are used throughout many of the songs. So even though they do sound different and it's not the same instruments, it kind of seems like each song is it seems like a lot of the songs are kind of continuations of each other. Again, for better and worse.
I thought the whole thing kind of sounded like a soul singer did a bunch of acid and Xanax and then made an album. It's
I made a note on one of them that it sounds like 3 different soul songs mashed together. Yeah,
like he sounds really good most of the time, but there's just so many effects going on sometimes.
As we go through some of the lyrics, that story even kind of makes sense because it's like, oh, these instruments have power and blah blah blah, and the drugs and usage and going off of them when you probably shouldn't. That definitely kind of tracks.
I mean, you could tell the influence of, or like the theme of drugs because there's drugs on the cover. Mm-hmm. There's like a whole pill.
Whoa! Don't describe it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't. You got to save that.
Savor that.
People stay to hear our descriptions of the album cover.
That's the best part. It's my favorite.
You know what the other best part is?
When we listen to it one more time.
The time we listen to it. Well, when we listen to it one more time.
Wow.
Let's give it one more listen.
That's
that part.
Let's go back.
Wow, what an album.
What an album.
It was an album.
Anytime I like an album, I like to say it, so I don't say it very all these changes. A song about whether or not we can heal the damage we've done to Earth.
Yeah.
What is the sample from at like the start of the track?
No, I don't think there are any samples on this album.
I've heard this like exact composition somewhere, and I don't know where it was. I thought for sure it was a sample, and I can't.
I'm pretty sure he does all the instrumentation himself.
I'm not surprised, like especially if he's going to Berkeley and stuff. But I don't know if that. Okay, whatever. Very familiar. I can't place it. I tried.
I understand what you're saying.
What I said? If you know, listener, tweet at us.
Yeah.
The lyrics are a bit on the nose. But I think due to the surreal backing track and the kind of twist towards the end where it becomes a little bit more aggressive.
New York's underwater.
Yeah, the lyrics kind of help you stay grounded until it all of a sudden just takes this darker turn, which I do enjoy. And I like the imagery of Earth purposely raising the water levels, like as revenge for how we've treated the Earth.
Drown them out.
Yeah, that's cool. I really like Nick Hakim's singing, even if I can't always make out what he's saying.
Yeah.
I like the way he vocalizes and stuff, so... It's pretty cool. Outro's pretty spooky.
Yeah, very spooky with the echoing and the piano, like old-timey piano, and then record skipping and warping.
The record warping stuff. He does it a couple times, doesn't he?
Yeah, a couple times, yeah. And then he does like a record scratch and like a playback, or like when the record skips. You know, like, whoop, whoop, whoop.
And then this is the introduction as well to how Nick Hakim structures songs where he repeats verses or choruses, but in a bit of a different tone.
Yeah.
Which I actually did not notice the first few times I listened until I was like looking at the lyrics. I'm like, oh, almost all of these songs have like a repeat, but something has changed pretty much, which I enjoy. And I feel like this first song sets the tone pretty well for the rest of the album. So
yeah, this is definitely, if you don't like it from the track one, it's probably not for you.
No. But we immediately go to the title track, WTMMG.
Will This Make Me Good?
Will This Make Me Good? And it's a song about Hakim's experience in the special education program and how he'd been taking medication twice a day the whole time.
Dang.
I'm not a huge fan of the intro. I'm glad the warping doesn't continue too heavily, but the cut to silence and drum beat in the first 10 seconds like startles me every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little surprising.
I described the drums in the beginning, the drums and the bass in the beginning as being oppressively crunchy. That glitch, and then they glitch out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I really liked the layering with the vocals. I thought the backing track was pretty repetitive, but it works because the vocals are so wild with all the effects and everything.
Yeah, the warbling of the organ.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought it was a cool song. The fade out at the end is very long. Mm-hmm. That's my only complaint. This is one of the ones that I think they could have cut.
I liked how in the middle of the song, or like shortly before the end, or getting towards the end, The music kind of all cuts out and then comes back.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of a neat effect.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not. It's unsettling with the lyrics.
Very
and,
unsettling.
The slurring becoming more and more aggressive after the first verse. And I'm also not a huge fan of how quickly we are to medicate children. So like the lyrics kind of hit for me. I like this kind of explanation about feeling suppressed by taking medication, and then again the aggression in the why do we trust people? This is control. This is a master plan from people, and it goes to like very clear. It goes from like echoey and ethereal to the second voice where it's like you've stopped taking your medication. Everything is very clear, and it gets more aggressive and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think it's a neat kind of subtle change. After that, we have bouncing.
It's different than the other one. From Bounce.
This is there's definitely not bounce. It's a long track, takes a little while to get going, a little repetitive. I like the parts where the whole thing dips momentarily. Yeah, like it's playing an old sound system that briefly loses speed, or when the track kind of breaks up. Very long, spooky outro as well. Again, this is one of the first times where I said I don't know if I'd want to be extra enhanced while listening to this album. I'm in a good headspace too, but any kind of weirdness can just
I feel like
suddenly
now
take
that
someone
I've
out. You never know.
again looked at these so analytically, I'll probably enjoy it less.
Sure. Oh yeah, now that you're paying more attention to the lyrics.
Now if
yeah.
I went into this very enhanced, I'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
Now I know what these lyrics
The
mean.
warble of the organ on this one is very off-putting.
I like it. It's very hypnotic and it morphs and the organ skips and stuff like that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh.
And then when the music cuts out at 2:45.
Yeah. I like that as well.
Yeah.
It's a cool track. I thought the whole thing kind of felt like breaking reality, where there's like a weird darkness below the surface.
This is the one where I said it sounded like three different Soul songs at the same time.
Cool.
Yeah, the song doesn't really mean much to me, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It just like nothing kind of jumped out as like, oh, this is a clear meaning. But I do like the strings and vocalizing in that last. It's a long time. Like it's a 2.5 minute outro.
Yeah.
I
was
enjoy it, but it
surprised.
feels like something that would be done live. Like
Sure.
it's not something that would make on an album, and instead live they would use it as a time for a break or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting a drinky poo. Yeah.
And then Let It Out.
It's an interlude.
Interlude, yeah.
And it's built over the same 5-second loop.
Yep.
Yes, so more broken record effects. And again, if you don't like it, you won't like it here. I enjoy record effects. Like I like the slowing, I like the skipping.
Yeah.
But I could easily understand if people did not.
I thought that this was kind of just a continuation of the end of the last song.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it didn't feel like it needed to exist. It's like, I'm not always crazy about interludes unless they kind of really add something. And I didn't feel like this added much.
Especially a 2-minute song.
Yeah, like it was okay. It's not bad. But like if I were to take this whole album and condense it, I'd cut like, there's this and I think 1 or 2 more interludes. And I would just probably cut all the interludes.
Yeah.
100%. But up next is Kadir, a song dedicated to Hakim's friend that passed away. He said he wrote it as a reminder to check in on your loved ones. This is my favorite song on the album for sure.
It is
pretty good.
Yeah, I like this one.
I really like all the hand drumming. Did you know that Kadir as a name means capable or competent?
Really?
I didn't know that.
Small fact.
Jonathan Horst, a friend of the podcast, says that he thinks this song should be in an Apple commercial, which I didn't get the
agree
same
with-
vibe.
I actually agree with that one. It seems like something that they would use because they use all the sort of interesting music, I guess.
I think the lyrics are pretty tasteful in how they depict depression and loss. And it's the least surreal of the bunch so far, and it's a nice break.
This is the closest thing to a normal song on this album.
Yeah, there's female vocals and harmonies for the first time, and I think only time, if I remember correctly. And it feels really cohesive to the album as a whole, even when you listen to their songs, even though it is quite different.
Yeah.
And again, they use this kind of like alternate take of the previous verses as the bridge or chorus that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
Drums on this song are particularly good.
I really liked it. It's kind of repetitive again on a pretty long song at like 7.5 minutes.
Yeah.
But
And a long outro.
Yeah.
Over 3 minutes in this one.
Yeah, but I didn't get bored with it, and I think as an experience, I definitely think it works, even though it's kind of repetitive. And then I while this outro is kind of spooky again, I really liked it. Like I like spooky stuff. It's I just don't know about the recommended setting.
I think I'm getting at that idea that Plouffe did, and he had a bad time. Because it devolves, and again, in this idea of this being a tribute to someone lost and having these lyrics of like,
very sad.
I wish, or I miss you dearly, like I wish you were here and stuff like that, to pretend it's okay. And the last line being, I just wish I could ask, like I wish I could talk to you. And then this devolving, into this really sadness. It's really good, but depending on your mental health, maybe not a great addition to your already stressful life. After that is all these instruments, which is a bit happier.
Yeah, I like the acoustic guitar. I actually think it fits really well.
Again, one of the few times this happens on the album.
Yeah,
it's just like acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And a love song, kind of.
Yeah, this is one of the only ones that actually doesn't feel super spooky or dark to me. This one would be good, but
it's like a couple that's struggling emotionally, and how he wants to help her feel better, though he's struggling too. It helps break up the songs a bit and grounds things back in reality. It's like somebody getting that brief moment of clarity. And I like the almost voicemail vocal effect that he has on, while the other instruments are very crisp and clear.
Yeah, the vocals feel like they were recorded on another planet, which is an interesting choice.
Yeah, it's very breathy and quiet.
Yeah.
It's like somebody trying to play quietly for their partner who's sleeping, or someone's in the other room.
Yeah.
I did like how the instruments take front stage on this particular song.
Especially called All These Instruments.
What weird, hey?
I really like that one.
Yeah, it has a long fade out.
It sure
Or I shouldn't say long. It has a fade out at all,
Yeah.
which I'm not usually a fan of, but I feel like it's fine.
It's fine. Drum thing.
Drum thing. I'm not a huge fan.
My note says, "Is this space wave?"
I can feel that.
Yeah, this was a big departure from the first half of the album, front loading a ton of bass. And this was the first time I actually don't really like his singing as well.
Yeah,
Fair.
it's very raw.
Yeah.
It's the tone of the main synths and backing track don't really match the harsh singing and minimal but punchy piano. It creates just like kind of a weird dissonance for me. And he yells very loud at one point, and it's very emotionally charged and cool, but it's extremely loud.
The drums and the instrumentation on this reminded me somewhat of the song Deep Cover by Son Ara, which is on the Hotline Miami soundtrack. Like one of those.
I've definitely heard that then.
Yeah, it's a great soundtrack.
And yeah, I used to have
So good.
both of them, but I sold them because I think the price went crazy high.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd skip the song, but it's definitely not one I'd ever put on.
Yeah, the yelling kind of threw me for a loop halfway through. I wasn't expecting it.
It sucks because it kind of kills this whole vibe that's been set up until now, especially with all these instruments being a little happier, and then it just cuts into the drum thing. I was not a big fan of drum thing. I'd probably want to skip it usually.
Yeah, if on the positive side, it's the start of one of the sides of the album, so you can just put it on the next song, Vincent Tyler.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know if I'd put this one on as my go-to for this side. It's a song about a man named Vincent Tyler, which is probably based on a man who was shot and killed in Hakim's hometown back in 2007.
Rip Vincent.
Like WTMMG, I don't like the sudden cut after the first few seconds, as I always think something's gone wrong, because it's just long enough that it's like, oh, okay.
I didn't like how the lyrics are kind of buried in this weird chorus effect.
Yes.
And then there's some very weird backing instrumentals at the same time.
Extremely dark music, too.
Yeah.
It's like everything kind of unravels after they walk up to this, because it's a story about finding somebody who's been shot.
Yeah.
And then touching them to see if they're alive, and they're not. And
alive,
then everything kind of unravels and gets really
Vincent?
dark. Yeah.
Are you alive?
Tapped him 3 times.
Tap him 3 times, he's dead.
Absolutely. And it gets, very creepy.
Very unsettling.
If this actually happened to him and his friends, I feel very bad. As they would have been young. They would have been like
10 or something.
Yeah.
That's probably why it affected him so much. I don't know. It's
Wait,
okay.
Did you say he's 32?
Yeah.
2007?
In 2007.
He'd be like 17.
Yeah, he's not that old.
Okay, he wasn't that. He was a
young.
teenager.
Oh,
yeah.
you're still.
Yeah.
Still young, but I don't know.
He deserves to see that bud.
I grew up in a dark town
Well, no,
where
it's not like he was like a
a lot of stuff happened
he
in
wasn't
Yellowknife
like
growing
7.
up.
Yeah.
And then the chanting of his name.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah, very creepy.
It's a cool song, but it's just, I don't know, it's kind of too fuzzy for me and kind of slow, so I'm not crazy about it.
Crumpy though.
Yeah.
What a name.
I like this song.
It's not grumpy. Crumpy.
Crumpy is a good song. It is probably the strongest on this album.
Crumpy means a loud thudding sound.
Does it?
Yeah, to
I had
crump.
no idea.
I like this one quite a bit as well, especially once you get a minute in and the guitar or whatever that is comes in. It's, one of the better songs on the album.
Yeah, I like the "Come On, Let's Go Back Home," and it kind of like has that little drum beat
Yeah.
and goes into the instrumental.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, it is fine.
Yeah, it's just good.
Pretty
It
song
is.
with lyrics get a little bit dark and unsettling, but stays in the bounds of a little bit of a love song.
Certainly.
And then it's God's Dirty Work.
It's got some fun instrumentation.
It's a little funky.
Yeah. This is another one I actually really liked. Kind of drags on, but, if I wasn't paying attention to make notes, I think that I would actually really like it being on in the background.
You could say that a lot about the whole album.
Totally.
Like if you weren't paying attention to the lyrics, you probably wouldn't realize that it was
Like
so
me.
dark.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I'm not sure what the song means. It kind of just seems maybe like it's about a drug dealer, or
Yeah.
maybe it's about a voodoo person.
It just kind of slows down at the end, too, and then the voices turn to mumbles.
Yeah, it's the first verse again, but very quiet, almost
Oh,
defeated.
it's the first verse again.
Yeah, so
I
it's
didn't even know
almost
that.
defeated or drained. And I think it's a great way to end the song.
Yeah.
It's very weird, but in a good way, in my mind at least. And then it's Seeing Double. It has a long intro.
Yeah.
It's almost like an instrumental
Yeah.
or a intermission. I can't think of the word.
Interlude.
Interlude. But it's a song.
I said that it sounded like there was some kind of like electric steel drum in the background, which is kind
Oh,
of
I don't think I noticed that. That's cool. This was one of the ones I actually really noticed the lyrics on. I particularly liked just the one line, "I refuse to wear this mask that you tied on my face." Most people are wearing their own mask as doing it to themselves, but this is like, no, you've done this to me kind of thing. I thought that was really cool.
I like the little MIDI keyboard that's used at the start, but it definitely stands out since nothing like it was used before or after. And again, as for the song means, I don't really know. It seems like someone who's just struggling to get their life back together.
Yeah.
It could be something about struggling with mental health issues or drug withdrawal with the whole, like, I'm seeing double verse where things kind of, again, start to
Totally.
unravel a bit. And then the outro is like the first part of the first verse as the instruments get slowly louder and intense before very quickly fading out, which I enjoy.
Then we get, woo!
My second favorite song. Maybe I'm biased because it's the song I discovered and by, but I really like it. It's a real love song. I like the imagery line, like you poured me a glass of precious wine that kept sealed in the back of your mind. To me, it's more like a metaphor of sharing stories and memories with somebody, something precious that you've kept with you, that's kind of aged well over time. And like the other songs, it's very lyrically repetitive, but uses that evolving backtrack to stay fresh and dynamic.
Yeah. It's got nice lyrics to end the album with.
Woo is what I said after I got through it all.
Damn. That's what I said when the flutes came in. I was like,
flutes.
ooh, a little bit of flutes. It's a nice switch up. And then the song ends with the sound of a record hitting its end. It's
Yeah.
some very faint music.
This whole album was really hard to make notes for because there's so many things to pay attention to that if you stop to make a note, you kind of lose the plot because you have to, like, I usually pause to make a note.
Yeah, me too. Mhm.
But then once you get it going again, it's like, oh, did I just miss something else? Did I just forget something else because I stopped to make a note? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
I must have listened to this album like 4 times.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Last note on this song, Hakim described it as a huge exhale. I kind of feel it, especially after
Yeah.
this kind of darker album. It's like
I got you.
Relief.
it's like that sweet relief of just a more positive song down the
Yeah.
album.
Sweet relief.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a good song. Still sounds kind of spooky sometimes, but nothing too creepy. And yeah, it's just pretty. I think it's a solid end of an album.
Sure. Yeah. What'd you think, Plouffe?
What do you think about the record itself?
Yeah.
Oh.
Which I have here right in front of me. So
Come
let
on,
me show you.
Jamie. It's
Right.
our favorite part. How'd you forget that? This is where
I
it
keep
goes.
forgetting.
He was just joshing.
Oh.
I can see the look in his face.
Oh.
All right, for the album cover, we have it's like a background photo of pills on maybe a bed. It looks like there's a quilt and there's some plants. There's a pill bottle that says, "Will this make me good?" Nick Hakim, and some random things that I have no clue what they are. Because over top there are several photos of Nick Hakim with dreads and toque and his hood up, making faces.
Cool.
I like the colors, a lot of colors from the pills and the quilts and plastic bag, and the photos themselves are all blue and circular.
Well, there's a couple of dice, but the dice are painted black.
Oh, those are dice.
Yeah.
It's very dark in Plouffe's house. There's no lights on. I can't see.
It's true.
But
It's because he's got all those glow-in-the-dark Joker posters now.
it's true. On the back, we have more dried flowers and cables, along with what looks like paper shreds.
Oh, this is
with
a
all of the
gatefold.
text. Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So in the inside,
Is it a single LP?
double.
Yeah, it's 53 minutes almost.
On the inside, we have a almost completely black inside, but in the center there are candles that are lit, illuminating an orb.
Yo, pondering my
basketball.
orb.
Pondering my orb.
And it
dude.
has the song titles as well as credits for everyone who worked on them, the people who did strings and all that other stuff, because he did pretty much.
I'm going to give
everything.
Nick Hakim a whole extra point because he likes to ponder orbs.
He does.
Wow, a whole extra point for the orb?
Yeah.
On the records themselves, the label is some of the pictures from the covers, along with the track titles. It is just a black record, and there are two of them, both with separate photos.
It's pretty nice. How much?
Is
How
it
much you pay
heavyweight
for
vinyl?
it?
I don't believe so. I can never tell.
Does it feel heavier than like a thin?
I'm not holding a regular, so I don't know. But it feels regular. Maybe I'm just stronger.
Been working out.
I paid $35,
That's
Yeah,
reasonable.
that's
including
fine.
shipping.
Yeah. Oh, including shipping.
Yeah.
That's completely reasonable.
That's really good.
Yeah, for
That's
double
better than
LP.
reasonable.
For a smaller artist as well, you can just buy this on Amazon.
Yeah, so-
which is what I did when I was enhanced.
Nice.
And
and it somehow showed up.
Yeah, very, very happy with it. It showed up in really good condition. I will be keeping this forever. It's one I display on my record wall.
Cool.
Because the album cover is
okay.
just so unique, and I think it is an album like none other. Speaking of, Jamie, why don't you start? You've already shared that you went woo when it ended. So tell us your final verdict.
Oh, that was less because I didn't enjoy it. It was more because it took me almost 3 hours to make notes for a 52-minute album. And like the number of pauses I had to get there to get like the 6 thoughts I've given now for the songs. I didn't hate the album. I think it's pretty good. It's a little spooky. I didn't listen to it enhanced.
Good.
But I don't know. I'm kind of with Plouffe on the maybe if you listen to it enhanced, you might have a bad time because you might get a little
I might have been
jumpy.
lucky. Yeah. I didn't know the lyrics.
It's a little
I didn't know the
spooky.
lyrics. In a good place, so maybe you don't. But
It is very cool in terms of like sound space and,
Yes, the
and
sound
stuff as you
stage,
listen to it.
yeah.
I can see how you like enjoyed the actual act of listening to it.
final verdict does not stand by anyone who gets enhanced. We're actually anti-enhancement.
Anti-enhancement.
We don't take pets here.
enhancement club.
We don't have to enhance to give out these reviews. I think it's like an 8 out of 13. I like I said, I didn't hate it. I wasn't totally enamored by it. But it wasn't off-putting enough that I would never listen to it again. I think there's a couple songs that I would put on a playlist for like background music, maybe. Because if you can't hear the lyrics, you don't know that it's weird and spooky.
Yeah.
And sometimes the instrumentation on the album is good enough on its own, stands up on its own.
Yeah, if you do the first like A and B side, put them on. I don't think many people would really notice if it was in the background. It would just be like kind of a nice jazzy
Right.
song or track. Plouffe, what do you think?
I think that this is definitely not for everyone. I probably wouldn't want to listen to the whole thing while on certain substances because of the dark undertones either in the production or the lyrics. However, I did enjoy it for the most part, and it's pretty interesting. Like I said, it feels familiar, but I can't find like a direct artist to make comparisons to. So it's definitely unique in that sense. And I actually give it the same score as Jamie, but different because I'm giving it an 8, but out of 10. I'd probably buy it if I saw it somewhere for a reasonable price. So the fact that you're telling me it was like 35 plus shipping or 35 shipped, that's very
Crazy.
tempting for me to just go
I
buy.
will say the price is
Crazy.
Very reasonable.
very reasonable. Thank you.
Yeah. I'd be okay with putting it on either for myself or for company, depending on the occasion, and especially if it's got 4 sides to it. That makes it a lot easier to like pick a couple of like, here's the sides I'll play for company and stuff.
If you had a record player that had a changer on it, that would make it even easier, where you could stack the sides.
Yeah, honestly, you could take like B
Yeah.
and D, and you'd get some solid
yeah,
songs on there.
yeah, it was good. I liked it.
For myself, would I recommend this album to everyone? No. Do I think this album is a great experiment that depicts drug use, mental health, loss, and love, not only through lyrics, but also through instruments and effects? Yes. If you like music that challenges you, not through difficult listening, like Dope Smoker by Sleep, and instead challenges you with imagery shown through tone and raw emotion, I highly recommend checking out this album. Bonus points, maybe, if you like to get enhanced. I am going to put this in the 9th spot, above Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd and below Leon LaHavis' self-titled. Wish You Were Here kind of evokes a similar...
Yeah.
It evokes strong emotions, but I was not a huge fan of those center ones. Like, I find Shine On You Crazy Diamond, those parts, those two section parts that make many parts are very, 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 very strong.
Yeah.
So it was hard to decide where to put this, but like Plouffe said, it's very familiar in a way that is so unique that I cannot name anyone that's like it. I really enjoy a dark vibe and a challenging subject matter that's not super try-hard or offensive. So this is right up my alley. But I also would understand if people were like, this is a 3 out of 10. I've never listened to Nick Hakim's other stuff, so I'm excited to take a listen, because apparently his first album is quite good, and he just released one last year, I think.
Green Things was apparently very well reviewed as well.
Yeah, that's his first real album, Green Twins.
Green Twins.
And then he released Cometa in 2022.
Right.
So, what are we listening to next week, Jamie?
We're going to listen to Death from Above 1979's debut album, You're a Woman, I'm a Machine.
I'm the Machine.
I Am the Machine.
Yeah, Bert Kreischer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about Bert
This
Kreischer.
is sponsored. That episode is sponsored by The Machine movie.
Now in
June
theaters.
16th.
I forgot that's coming out. Cool.
Well, see you later.
See you later.
Bye.